Thank you for joining us. I'm Annie Patorf, and I am a sustainability specialist at the City of St. Louis Park. And I'm joined today by the city's sustainability manager, Emily Ziering. And we're really excited to welcome Carmen Crothers and Hannah Hoger from the Citizens Utility Board today. So before we get started here, diving into what savvy energy consumers should know single family home edition, I will walk us through our schedule for the day. So first we'll go over a few housekeeping things, and I'll go over the city's climate action plan, and then I'll hand it over to the Citizens Utility Board to talk a little bit about their organization. They will go through some COVID-19 specific energy resources that save on your bills each month. Your video is off and you won't be able to turn those on or talk during the meeting. But if you do have any questions, put them in the chat and we can either answer them live as we're going through, or you can save them till the end and we'll have time to answer questions there as well. And I am recording this presentation, so if you happen to miss anything or need to take a break for any reason or hop off early, I'll be sending those out. So, a little bit about the St. Louis Park Climate Action Plan, which many of you may be familiar with already. But in 2018, the St. Louis Park City Council passed the Climate Action Plan with the ambitious goal of achieving carbon neutrality or having a net zero carbon footprint by 2040. The plan provides actionable strategies that residents, businesses, and the city can pursue to reduce gas emissions and the impacts of climate change. Here's a look at some of the goals of the Climate Action Plan. It actually describes 7 midterm goals that will reduce the city's overall carbon emissions by 55% by 2030. And one of those is to reduce energy consumption in residential buildings by 35%. And you can see that that's this kind of peach-colored part of the diagram here. And this is exactly where you come in. So by joining us here today and taking the first step to understand your home's energy use, you can start to identify ways to save energy and money while at home, which in turn helps the city meet our climate action goals. So again, thank you for being here and being part of this. So now I'll turn it over to Carmen at the Citizens Utility Board.
Hi, we're really happy to be here. My name is Carmen Crothers and I'm the Outreach Director for the Citizens Utility Board. And we wanted to spend just a couple minutes talking about who we are to get a kind of an idea of the perspective we're coming from. So we're a consumer advocate nonprofit organization. We're an independent organization, so we're not a government agency. We really are looking out for the very best interests of residential consumers, and we concentrate our services on residential and small business consumers. And if we can go to the next slide, please, we'll describe our organization kind of has 2 aspects to it. This is our outreach team. Hannah and I are with you today. And so one version of our work is doing exactly what we're doing today, talking to consumers, doing educational events. In more normal times, you would see us out at community events in the summer, tabling. We have a nice tent we bring with us. Fortunately, we can't do that this year. So doing a lot of education, and then we also give free energy bill consultations. And that's something at the end you'll hear a little bit more about, but we will talk with individual households about their unique questions and energy needs. It takes about 30 minutes. We review your bills, and then we give you customized suggestions of things that you can do to try to make your home use less energy or to take advantage of programs and rebates that might be available, or any other energy related questions. So we also talk to people who are maybe planning to remodel their home or build a new home, and they're trying to identify what things on an energy side should they be thinking about when it comes to those decisions. So keep that in mind. And then we'll go to the next slide and talk about our policy work. So our organization also does advocacy at the state level. So we're active at the Public Utilities Commission. And if you're not familiar with that organization, they oversee the investor-owned utilities in our state, which includes your utility companies, CenterPoint and Xcel Energy. So the most explicit example of decisions they make is that if there's a proposal to raise your rates, either through Xcel or CenterPoint, it's the Public Utilities Commission that makes that final determination to what extent or if your rates will rise. And in fact, if you go back and look at your CenterPoint energy bill now, for those who have natural gas, we're in the middle of a rate increase proposal right now, and you'll see that on your bill. So that's a good example. We're also active at the state legislature addressing bills that would impact residential consumers. So our group is really advocating for affordable, reliable, and clean energy and trying to find that right mix that will benefit consumers across the state. So you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, and because we are in unusual times, we did want to spend just a couple minutes talking about the impact that COVID has had on utility customers. And we recognize some people, particularly in this time, are concerned about being able to pay their bills. So this slide just reiterates information that Excel and CenterPoint are trying to share with their customers, and that as long as the governor's peacetime emergency is in place, which it was just extended earlier this week, that they will not be disconnecting people. Anyone who was previously was disconnected can be reconnected. They're not charging late fees, and they're arranging payment plans. And that's the biggest thing we'd like you to take from this, is that if you are struggling to keep up with your bills and you're not able to pay the entire bill, reach out to these companies and ask to get on a payment plan. The Excel and CenterPoint have also promised to provide 60 days notice to the Public Utilities Commission after the emergency expires, when it does expire, before they would resume disconnection. So there should be some comfort in those steps that they're taking. We can go on to the next slide, please. So as mentioned, if you are behind on your bills, we encourage you to follow these steps, and so that you don't get further behind and that you're able to catch up. And Hannah, towards the end of the presentation, is going to touch on some resources for those who are struggling to pay their bills. So we'll go on to the next slide. Now we want to tie this part of the presentation really into your city's climate action plan. And the city's determined that it's important to reduce the impacts of household energy use, which is a great goal. And so a really common question or desire people have is like to use more renewable energy, or how can they use more renewable energy? So we wanted to share in the next slide where our energy currently comes from, just the way it is. And we're going to focus on electricity. So if we can go on to the next slide. This is a really nice chart that talks about how much our sources of electricity have changed in the last decade. So if you compare the first pie chart from 2019, you can notice some significant changes in how our electricity is generated compared to 2019. So one of the most noticeable things is how much less coal is available, or is being used rather. You'll also see a big shift in a substantial increase of natural gas being used as a source of to provide electricity. You'll notice nuclear power has stayed pretty constant. And the other changes related to renewable energy is we've doubled the amount of wind that's being used in the state in the last decade. And you can see if you look at 2019, solar doesn't even show up. It's not enough to even make the chart. By 2019, it's 3%. So there has been a lot of change and a lot of progress. And most of this change has been due primarily to economics. There's also been a policy asked to try to increase the amount of renewables in our system. But the fact is that the costs of wind and solar have come down so significantly that utilities are choosing this source to provide our electricity. And the economics around natural gas have also had a noticeable impact with fracking. The cost of acquiring natural gas has gone down substantially. So you're seeing utilities also choose that. And these decisions are mostly at the expense of less coal being used. We go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so to give you kind of an overview, when you're thinking about your home's energy use, these are some kind of big topics to be thinking about in terms of how your home uses energy and where there's opportunities. And again, kind of reiterating back to the last slide about renewable energy, the cheapest and cleanest energy is what we don't use in the first place. So you may have heard this before, but it's like energy efficiency first. That's the best first thing you can do to try to reduce your impact. The next thing is that there's a lot of quick and easy tips that we're going to go over. That it's just small behavioral changes, and we encourage people just to make progress over time. Do what you can when you can, and be planning for it. The opportunities you have to control and manage your energy use are going to vary a lot by season. Those of us who have lived in the state for quite a while notice there's extreme changes, and in the summertime we're using most of our household energy to keep ourselves comfortable and cool, especially the last few weeks. In the wintertime, it's the opposite. We're using a lot of energy to keep our homes warm and comfortable. And so always kind of keeping in mind this need to be adjusting throughout the months. And then this last point to keep in mind is when we talk about energy efficiency, oftentimes this requires an investment in terms of thinking about what type of equipment or improvements you're going to make in your home or use in your home. And that takes a little bit of planning. So for example, you're only going to replace the furnace maybe every 15, 20, 25 years. A water heater is maybe going to be in the 10 plus, time frame. There's certain periods of time in which you have an opportunity to make a switch to something that is either more efficient, more cost effective, or has less of an environmental impact. So with this presentation, we want you to be kind of thinking about those things. We're going to be talking a little bit about home energy assessments. And there's discounted programs available to you as residents. And that's a wonderful first step to identify where are the opportunities in my home that over time I can be making changes. So maybe it's more insulation, maybe it's replacing equipment. Your fridge goes out, what model are you going to choose? Just thinking about those things can have a nice impact on your household energy use and your long-term expenses related to that. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, the other major factor that's going to impact how your home uses energy is actually when it was built. So this is an example of how housing stock looks across the state of Minnesota. And, we have a lot of older housing stock. And when you think about St. Louis Park, there's a pretty good mix. There's a lot of new development, but then there's homes that have been there for quite a long time. And what we like when we're talking to people about their energy bills, one of the questions we ask is, when was your home built? Because that usually has a direct impact on how efficient it probably is. So the statewide building code was most widely adopted in the late 70s. So when we talk to people, if you have a home that's older than 1980, you're likely a good candidate to get a home energy assessment, because there's likely not as much insulation in your home as what would be ideal to keep your home efficient. So that's something to think about in terms of, how does my home use energy? What improvements have been made over time? And if you don't know that, oftentimes you don't really know what's been done to your home over time. Getting that home energy assessment is a great way to find out. And as you're making improvements and changes to your home, take that opportunity to maybe invest in some energy efficiency measures. Go on to the next slide, please. Okay, now we're going to talk about how a typical home in Minnesota uses energy. And as you look at this bar chart, it should stand out to you that over half is heating and cooling. So the vast majority of our energy use is trying to keep our homes comfortable. So when we talk to people about the opportunities to try to reduce their energy usage and or to save money, that's usually the go-to place. Adjusting your thermostat has a major impact on how much energy you're using. That simple adjustment can result in significant savings for your energy bills. So paying attention to that. The next big users are water heating, which isn't something a lot of people think about, but it uses a significant amount of energy. So depending on how you heat your your water and how much hot water you use is going to have a direct impact on your bills as well. Kind of the rule of thumb right now is that a gas water heater may cost a little bit more upfront because natural gas prices are so low. It costs you less to operate it. However, an electric water heater tends to be less expensive, and it has less, if you're interested in trying to reduce your carbon footprint because the source of electricity is getting cleaner, then it has less environmental impact. So there's different things to consider when you go to replace those appliances, and we're happy to talk to you about those different choices. And we have appliances, so this is like your washer, your dryer, your fridge, your freezer, all of those things that are in your home that you're using. Lighting is about 10%, and we're big advocates for LED light bulbs, so we'll touch on that a bit later too. And then typically all of these electronics in our home don't use a ton of energy. They tend to be quite efficient in and of themselves, but again, it depends on how many you have. So different households, maybe it's a little bit bigger than this, but what we encourage is to shut them off when you're not using them. But the good news is, like, that newer TV you may have uses less energy than the one from 15 years ago. We'll go on to the next slide, please. Okay, and I just encourage you too, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat box, and we can take them as they come, or in the Q&A. Okay, now we're going to talk kind of nuts and bolts about your energy bill. And as residents of St. Louis Park, you are probably familiar with the Excel bill. Not everybody actually opens the mail and looks at it. A lot of us are on auto pay, and it just comes and we pay it. We maybe only pay attention if it's really crazy high. But after this presentation, we encourage you to take a look, because this bar chart that you see on your bill, this is on the front page typically of most utility companies, including Excel, is this information of that bar chart gives us a lot of insight into how a home is using energy. So you notice that there's 13 months. It goes from August to August. So you can compare the current month to the same month the previous year, which is helpful, and especially if you're kind of working to track your energy use and have some goals to try to bring it down over time. And this bill is a pretty typical bill in that, for electricity, and that you'll see that the peak months where you see the highest rates of use are in the summer. So June, July, August, September. And that hopefully is no surprise, is because of air conditioning. So people who have air conditioning in their homes, they tend to see the highest energy bills in the summertime for electricity. You'll notice that there's a little mini peak in the winter time. So looking kind of December, January, February. Again, this is pretty common. In the winter months, we're using more electricity because our furnaces are running. So those furnaces that have the electric fan going are going to use more energy. We tend to be at home a little bit more. We have to have the lights on longer. All those things add up to a bit more energy use in the wintertime compared to, say, the fall and the spring. Where this chart is really helpful for us is that we'll sometimes see a big winter peak, and we start to ask questions about that. And what it typically is space heating. A space heater or maybe a humidifier is running on a regular basis, and those types of equipment can use a lot of energy. We're not saying they're not necessary, but it is something to be aware of and to manage. So we try to encourage people, especially with space heaters, to really minimize the use and figure out if there's a better way to keep a particular space warm. But also there's things where you just need to do it, but we just try to encourage people to be aware of it. We'll also sometimes see really high bills where it could be air conditioning and a dehumidifier. Those use a ton of electricity as well. And again, it's something that might be necessary, but being aware of it and managing it to the best of your ability is a great way to try to reduce your usage and save money. Okay, go on to the next slide, please. Okay, next we're going to go over some line items. And we do this because we feel it's important for you to understand what you can control and not control in your bill. Sorry, cat's visiting. And also to understand what you're paying for with your electricity bill. So we have some fixed charges that are shown in yellow. The basic service charge, that's just, you have to pay a certain amount just to have electricity at your home. Whether you use a little or a lot, you're going to have a basic service charge, and it's either going to be $8 or $10, depending if you have underground or overhead lines in your neighborhood. The next one, if you go down, is the affordability charge, and we like to point this out. It's just under $1, and it actually goes to help pay for programs for folks who struggle to pay their bills. It helps reduce their electricity bills. One's called a Power On program that helps with the Excel bills, and another is called the Gas Affordability Program. And these programs are very helpful for households because allowing them to have, if they meet income requirements, allowing those households to have assistance on their bills helps prevent shutoffs, which shutoffs are a major problem. So we would just like to inform people that that's a program that all utility customers pay. The next thing we want to talk about are the green highlighted areas, the variable costs. So these are the areas where you have the ability to control and manage. All of these charges are related directly to how much energy you're consuming. And so if you look at that first line item, there's 2 energy charges actually. And we pick out this particular month in June specifically because there's actually 2 charges on your bill. If you didn't know it, there's a summer charge and a winter charge. And you're charged more in the summertime, which is June, July, August, and September. We have 4 months of summer in Minnesota, which is probably pretty accurate most years. But you'll notice you pay more in the summer. And we just mentioned that most people use the most electricity in the summer. So keep in mind that you're using more and you're paying more for what you use. So that's why people can see especially high energy bills in the summertime. The winter is the rest of the year, and you'll notice that the rate's lower, and they break it out on these bills where you're straddling both seasons. Then the next line item is the fuel cost charge, and this is like a pass-through cost based on what the markets are and what Xcel is being charged to buy the natural gas, to buy the coal that fuels the plants, etc. And so this changes slightly every month. The next line item is a decoupling adjustment, which is always a confusing thing to explain. But basically, it's a method of kind of evening out what the revenue projections for the company and what the actual revenues are, in an effort to make sure that energy efficiency programs are still promoted. So if you're Xcel, you're in the business of selling energy, and logically you would like to sell more energy than less because that's your business. However, we have all these policies encouraging energy efficiency. So this decoupling adjustment tries to kind of rectify that, so Xcel can still promote all their energy efficiency programs. And if they end up selling less energy than what was agreed upon, we get a small charge on our bill to make up the difference. But if they sell more energy than was projected, you'll see a credit in your bill. So month to month, you're going to see that changing. The other line item that is directly related to your energy use is the resource adjustment, and that is actually a fund. And so when we talk, we're going to talk a little bit later about getting rebates for choosing energy efficient items for your home. So if you bought a new furnace, for example, and you got a high efficiency furnace, you would potentially be eligible for a rebate. This is where that money comes from for the rebate. When you have a home energy squad visit at your home, it comes from this program. Luckily for you as residents of St. Louis Park, the city further subsidizes that, so you get it at an even lesser cost. But this is where that money comes from. So we always encourage people, when they have an opportunity to take advantage of a rebate, to do so because you've been paying for it all along. And then one thing of note I want to mention, because a common question people have is like, how much am I using, like a normal amount of energy, more or less? And our ballpark kind of estimate that we start with when we talk to consumers is for what we consider an average size home being a little less than 2,000 square feet, and an average household size being around 3 people. This is all estimates. If you average between 600 and 800 kilowatt hours a month over the course of the year, that's pretty typical. That's kind of the goal. If you can do less than that, that's fantastic. And we run into people who use an amazingly small amount of energy, so we ask them questions about how they do that. But in terms of trying to ballpark your usage, and then you need to adjust it in terms of household size, like the physical size of your home, and then how many people live in there are big impacts. I see there's just a question about the decoupling adjustment fee. Yes, it does change based on the actual amount of energy consumed by Excel customers. So if you go back and look at bills, you'll see sometimes it's a credit and sometimes it's a charge. It is confusing, and I agree with you on that point. Someone mentioned that it's confusing, and yes, it is. And hopefully just understand that the idea is that we want to the company needs to encourage people to use less energy. So this adjustment on the line item sort of makes them whole. And this was something that was approved of by the Public Utilities Commission. CenterPoint Energy does this as well. It's just the technique available to help continue to encourage efficiency in the system and through their programs. Okay, the last thing we're going to touch on, and then I'm going to be turning it over to Hannah for some nice tips, are the taxes and fees. So this particular example is from Maple Plain, Minnesota. So your bill is going to look a little bit different. But the main thing we want to touch on is all of the taxes and fees are based on your subtotal. So, you know, the majority of your charges you can control, and then the taxes and fees are going to be on top of that. So reducing your energy use and expenses is going to reduce your taxes and fees. And then I just realized I forgot to mention the Saver Switch program. There's 2 different programs available that will be credits on your bill. So anyone who has central air conditioning, there's a program through Excel called the Saver Switch. They put a device on your air conditioning. During peak demand periods, they can cycle your air on and off to help control demand so that the system doesn't buckle under the pressure. And to reward you for that, they give you 15% off your bill during those summer months, which is significant because this is the time of year you're paying more for what you're using and you tend to use more. The second program is if you have an electric water heater, you can get a similar device put on and you get a discount 2% through the entire year. Okay, and now I'm going to pass it on to Hannah to give some good energy saving tips. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is my favorite part of the presentation, is where I get to talk about ways you can reduce your energy use. And they're, like Carmen said, they're really easy. They're just kind of self-awareness, monitoring the way you use energy. And that's kind of the first step. So I'm sure many of you already know this, but just a reminder, especially since we're home more, and for me, I am working remotely with laptops and multiple screens and whatnot. So using power strips and then unplugging electronics when they're not in use to reduce phantom or vampire use is really important. So I have all of these technologies plugged into a power strip, and then after I'm done for the day, I just unplug it. And then using LED light bulbs, if you're not already doing so, compact fluorescents or CFLs are almost just as efficient as LED light bulbs, but especially, for instance, for my family, if we're in a high traffic area, say like living room and stuff like that, where potentially you still have a CFL plugged in or screwed in, you could change it out for LED, especially since you're more active in that area. So that might help minimize your energy use in that way. And then some other things such as running a full dishwasher if you have one, and then turning off the heated drying function. This is something I learned about as well when I joined Cub, is it's not necessary to have that, and just letting it air dry after the dishwasher runs the clean cycle. And then running full loads of laundry, especially since it uses the same amount of water. And then washing with cold water, especially since most of the energy used from laundry is just warming or heating up the water. So those are just some quick, easy steps you can take. Next slide, please. And then, like we said, energy efficiency varies by season. So this is especially for summer. Keeping the Department of Energy recommends setting the thermostat at 78 until the AC kicks on, and then using fans as much as possible. especially since they can make you feel 4 degrees cooler with the wind chill effect. I know I've seen a couple things where people have it a little bit colder, so just kind of balancing your needs and comfort, and certainly not sacrificing your comforts and health. If you need to have it lower, is okay. And then shutting shades and curtains and blinds, simple things, especially as the sun rises. You can see behind me, I usually don't open the blinds until the sun sets. And then opening up windows in the cool evenings and early mornings. I've done that for myself. I think yesterday and today have been quite nice, and the humidity levels have been down. So yeah, taking advantage of that. And then insulating AC window units with rope caulk. I know if you don't have central AC and just have those window units, tightening it up around the sides can really help keep that cold air in. And then I believe CenterPoint has they have a page for free home efficiency products. I just dropped the link down for you. And they have a lot of free products available for customers, including rope caulk, efficient shower heads, and aerators for the sinks. So just a lot of free things that you can purchase for your home for free. And then another thing is just avoiding placing electronics that give off a lot of heat near your AC meter, since that can fluctuate the temperature readings, especially if maybe you have like a lamp or that maybe still has an incandescent or a CFL in there. Next slide, please.
And before we move on, Hannah, there's another question came in. It says, my front load washer has a cold and an eco cold setting. What's the difference between those two? And perhaps is there one that's better to use in this context?
Carmen, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to look that up. I'm not sure, and we don't want to give the incorrect information. So I'll try to do a quick search, and maybe we can answer it before the end of the presentation.
Yeah, I personally I don't have a front load washer yet, so yeah, I'm not quite sure about that setting in itself, but hopefully we can give you an answer for that. And then so for the winter, which seems like a long ways away, but keeping your thermostat at 68 when home, and then differentiating it up to 10 degrees when you're asleep or away. And this really depends on your home itself, especially for older homes. Sometimes you might not be able to have it drop such that, for instance, drop lower than like 62 or something like that. So just kind of getting a feel of your own home and how it works will allow you to be more energy efficient and take advantage of lowering the temperature where you can. And then kind of completely the opposite, opening up those curtains and blinds, letting the sun warm up your home, and then wearing layers as much as possible, and avoid and minimizing space heater use. What we generally tell people, if you do need to use a space heater, just to run it in one room or when you're occupying the room in itself. Next slide, please. Yeah, and we talked about sales and rebates. And like Carmen said, rebates are kind of built into your bill. So taking advantage of whenever you can is really important. Especially we talk to people who have like old freezers or refrigerators. I believe Excel just increased the rebate for taking away your freezer or refrigerator, an old one. I believe it's $50 now that they will cart it away for free and give you money for it. So that's really nice thing to take advantage of. And then, yeah, anytime you're thinking of replacing mechanical systems, such as furnace, boiler, water heater, just thinking about what energy efficiency models out there can help you attain that rebate. And a lot of times it's it has to be an energy or a Energy Star model in order for you to receive that rebate. Then for appliances as well, and then insulating, air sealing is really important. Like I said, CenterPoint has some free products for households to take advantage of to help against for window sealing or stuff like that. Of course, light bulbs we talked about, and then CenterPoint offers free furnace tune-ups. I believe you can take advantage of it every other year. And so that's a great way to just make sure that It's up to date, as well as health reasons as well, to make sure your furnace is tuned up.
And there's a few more questions that are coming in. It says, I have 2 AC units in my house, as there's a separate unit for a new addition of the house. Can she use a saver switch?
You should be able to. I don't think, Carmen can double check on this. I don't think, as long as it's one unit outside, they should be able to just, because the device is located on the exterior of your home. So I don't know if it would matter if you had 2 types of programmable thermostats. Carmen, do you know?
Okay, so the one thermostat controls the central air, and then another thermostat does the other. It sounds like they should be able to do the saver switch because it's all on the same bill. That's what's really important. The thermostat itself shouldn't make any difference. There are 2 different AC saver switch programs that the resident might be aware of. You can get the traditional one, which is the one we featured on the bill, where it's just a flat 15% off. There's another program called AC Rewards, I believe it is, and they give you a discount on the, they give you a smart thermostat, and it works a little bit differently. So if they just have a programmable thermostat and are interested in a smart thermostat, you can decide which version makes more sense for you over time. And we'd be happy to talk to that person offline too for more information about that. And I was able to get a little information about the earlier question about the EcoCold. And so from my quick search, it sounds like the pure cold uses less energy than the EcoCold, but I would recommend they refer to the manual of the washing machine just to verify that that's the case for that particular model.
And then there is another question here asking to expand on the furnace tune-up. They say they have a company come twice a year to tune up their air conditioner and furnace. Does CenterPoint have to be the company to complete the tune-up in order to receive the credit?
Great question. If you go to the CenterPoint website, they have a link, and a lot of the service providers can request that refund directly, or the customer can do it themselves. So for you to go to the website, you can, you're eligible for that rebate every other year. So, and I'm really happy to hear that they're doing that kind of servicing, because we want to see air conditioners and furnace service every year. It's the best way to keep them running efficiently and prevent any unplanned breakdowns that can be very inconvenient.
And it looks like Hannah just shared that link, and I'll make sure to send that in the follow-up email as well. And it's in the chat. And I think we've got one more question. Can you share a little more information about the smart thermostat rebates that are available?
Yes, another great question. So both CenterPoint and Excel offer rebates on smart thermostats because you're controlling your thermostat both for cooling and for heating. And guessing the majority of residents are heating their homes with natural gas through CenterPoint. So what we encourage you to do is compare the different options and figure out what's the best deal for you. You can also buy those thermostats directly off of Excel's website too. They have a Excel energy store, you know, or you can go buy it yourself and then get a rebate. Another option is if you're interested in getting a home energy audit through the Home Energy Squad, you can pay an additional, because they will give you a free programmable thermostat as part of their assessment. But if you want to upgrade to a smart thermostat, you can do it as part of that process as well. So there's a lot of great options, and just shop around and figure out the best deal for your household. And it would depend probably on the model of smart thermostat you're interested in too.
Great, and we'll make sure to send the links out about that too. And the person who asked the question just commented they're really helpful to automate setbacks based on your schedule. So yeah, they're very customizable, especially if you're going out of town or anything like that. Very easy.
Yeah, We often will recommend smart thermostats, especially to households whose schedule changes a lot. Like a programmable thermostat works really well when you have the same schedule every day. That's perfectly adequate. But if you're a household where every day is a little bit different, or people are coming and going, or a lot of unexpected things happen, it's fantastic to have a smart thermostat because you can just change it on the fly. And there's such a huge potential to save money on energy when you're away from home. It's just a great, easy opportunity to reduce your bills.
Great, thanks for all the questions, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Home Energy Squad visit, which we've mentioned a few times. So here's some more information about that. At the Home Energy Squad visit, this is the virtual version, which is being offered right now, and it's free. And this is a program that's through Excel and CenterPoint. So an energy consultant will guide you on a walkthrough assessment of your home through video chat. So whether that's your phone, your iPad, or your laptop that you're able to sort of hold up and guide the person around your home, they will identify places you're losing energy and ask you questions about your usage. And you'll receive energy savings tips right away, as well as recommendations for next steps. So right there, you can see for this free virtual assessment, we have the sign up link right there, and drop that in the chat as well. Along with that, you can also do an in-person visit. So you could either just do the in-person visit if you're comfortable with that. If not, you can stick with the virtual visit for now. But we did really want to highlight that the City of St. Louis Park has a reduced rate of $50, which is really awesome because that person comes to your house, gives you a lot of personalized tips, and helps you identify projects for the future and where to start and resources to get those started. But they also bring a lot of really great products that can go ahead and kickstart your energy savings. So right there, they will likely bring you some LED light bulbs to install, as well as some low flow and energy saving shower heads and faucet aerators and door stops that can help prevent any air leaks in your house. So it's a great way to just get some of those free products right then and there. And this is available for owners and renters of single family, duplex, triplex, or fourplex homes. And
yeah, and just Annie, something to add about that. If you do decide to do the virtual version, it doesn't disqualify you from doing the in-person as well. So you can do both if you would like.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, the virtual version might be a really great way to just kind of get started and then follow up with the in-person version, but you can really do it either way you want to and what you're comfortable with. So we wanted to especially highlight this as part of our Climate Champions program, which we're previewing. So residents that participate in a Home Energy Squad visit and then pursue any energy savings projects will be recognized as a St. Louis Park Climate Champion for doing their part to help our community achieve our goal of carbon neutrality by 2040. And so this program is kind of in the works. But if you are undertaking a Home Energy Squad visit and you get an idea for a future project and you do want to be recognized for that work, please reach out to me and we can make sure that you're recognized for that. And my contact information is here, but we'll share that in the chat as well. And I'll pause for a second because we have one more question. I think, so this person said, I think I had the Home Energy Squad visit done about 7 years ago. Am I able to do it again at the reduced cost? That is a really good question. Emily, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I don't believe that there's any time restrictions or frequency restrictions on that. I'll check with our housing division, but I know that HES is recommended about every 5 years. So I can't imagine that that would be a problem, but I can double check, or the participant is welcome to reach out to our housing division and ask them directly. Let me see if I can get an answer quickly.
Great. Okay, so I'll hand it back to Kelp here.
So we talked a little bit about energy assistance at the beginning of the presentation, but we just wanted to highlight it again. If you are needing some bill assistance, the energy assistance is available to anyone if you qualify by income. And then it's available to renters or homeowners, and just getting in contact with the Community Action Partnership of Hennepin County. That's who your energy assistance provider would be. And then this would qualify for heating as well as electric bills. And then applications usually go out in September, and then Hennepin County Action Partnership will start reviewing them usually early October. And as you can see, it's by house size and the income guidelines. So a lot of the times, as long as you qualify this, you shouldn't have a problem receiving some assistance. Next slide. So that is all CUB has today, and want to thank you everyone for joining us today. If you would like some personalized suggestions for your home, as well as if you are seeing that your bill perhaps is a little high, or you just want to feel more comfortable in your home, feel free to reach out to us as well. We provide free customized energy consultations. They take usually 30 minutes, and we do it by phone or video chat. So something very easily just to see how your home is doing. A lot of times that's what it is. We have people asking, am I in the ballpark, or am I an average person who spends this amount of energy and whatnot? So yeah, feel free to get in contact with us, and I'll drop in that link below right there. And then other ways you can get involved, feel free to follow us on social media, as well as sign up for our newsletter. We are still a new organization, so we love having people share the word about us.
Great. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen here, and we'll just have more of an open chat if anyone has more questions about the presentation.
I just saw a question come in that says, with COVID, CAP agencies were able to extend and modify energy assistance program eligibility with federal approval. Can CUB speak to those changes? Yes, that was actually a really helpful change. So that slide we showed is kind of the typical application requirements, where normally to apply, you have to show 3 months worth of income levels to demonstrate that you're eligible. And typically the deadline is May 31st. This year, they made changes to both the deadline. So they extended it to July 1st. So that has just passed, but a lot of additional people were able to apply because of that extension. And they also modified the, rather than having to demonstrate 3 months of income, they reduced it to 1, which is especially helpful because, as many people recognize, things change so quickly. So if you were sitting in April and you had lost your job in March, if you went back 3 months, it's, you were still employed in February, for example. But reducing it just to a month helped make a lot of people eligible much more quickly, rather than having to wait 3 months to demonstrate that their income had changed drastically. So those were the changes that were made. We don't know going forward into the next energy assistance cycle if any of those changes will be in effect starting in the fall. But we'll have information about that once we know something. So thank you for that question. Okay, it says, I feel like my air conditioning unit is old and might need replacement. How long should it last? Are the rebates help getting a new one? Can you consult? Oh, can you consult with me offline sometime? Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And if I can kind of provide a general answer in case others have a similar question. Yeah, air conditioning units, the amount of time they're going to last can vary. It tends to be similar to how long a furnace would last. The best way to understand is to get it serviced and have the technician help you understand how much life it has left in it. And there are definitely rebates available for air conditioners. That's a great way to take advantage of the rebates that you've already been paying for. And you can go onto Excel's website and learn more about that. With the rebates, you need to understand which types of items are eligible. So do that research first, because not all items are rebate eligible. They have to meet specific specifications of being designated as energy efficient. So please do that homework first, so you don't count on a rebate that you might not be able to get.
And Jake, I would also add that doing the virtual home energy squad visit might help lay the groundwork too for what kind of unit you would need. So this isn't a question, but it's a really good point. Someone just commented that they replaced their air conditioning and furnace a couple years ago. At that time, St. Louis Park also gave us a percentage of rebates too. So that is still accurate. The city does have a cooling efficiency match for some of the utility rebates. So I will make sure that that information is shared with you all in our follow-up email too. So definitely there's a lot of savings opportunities between the utilities and the city's rebates as well. So there's another. Okay. As we're waiting for any more to come in, Carmen and Hannah, I have a question. I am wondering, since you started working at the Citizens Utility Board, what action or advice is like your main thing or that has been for you personally most impactful in saving?
I would say our number one suggestion is adjusting your thermostat. Almost every household has some room to do that. Even a degree or two can really be impactful. And so just kind of being aware of that is definitely our number one recommendation to people. And like heating and cooling is the biggest part of your energy use, so it's the biggest chance to save money and reduce your energy use. Hannah, do you have other popular things that are your favorite?
I would have to say the same. I think since I joined Cub, I'm the thermostat police in my house, so I manage it pretty with a pretty good eye and everything. And yeah, I think you can save up to 3% for each degree you adjust. So that's for summer as well as winter. And when you think about just adjusting it, by 4 degrees when you leave the home, then that could save you potentially up to 10% on your bill. So yeah, there's a lot of advantage to just adjusting your thermostat.
I'd like to say too that we often learn from the consumers we work with, and that's fantastic. So I met with a lady who was really good about managing energy use, and she gave me a tip that I use now. She just kind of, to reduce how much she's drying her clothes, she just kind of fluffs things up. So she runs them in the dryer for a while, and then she lets them air dry the rest of the time. So she's just using a fraction of the energy to dry her clothes that most of us would typically use. And if it's not too much effort, it's kind of an easy way to cut back on your usage.
I actually do that as well. And I have to say, I own a lot of vintage clothing that probably shouldn't go in the dryer anyways, and it helps clothes maintain their integrity longer. So I found that really helpful for saving, but also just clothes last.
I will also chime in that I have some wool dryer balls that I purchased, and you can put in as many as you want. And I usually have about 6 of them bouncing around with my clothes to help kind of fluff them up as they go. And they're very handy. They're about the size of, each one's about the size of a tennis ball. And a couple quick things, Annie, I just want to mention that I put into the chat window. The city will pay for those HES visits, or will subsidize those HES, Home Energy Squad visits, for $50, as long as they're not done any more frequently than once every 3 years for the same customer at the same property. And I did post a link to information about the city's matching rebates if anyone is interested in learning more about what the city offers to match the utility rebates.
Great. And there's another Q&A question here. It says you talked a little bit about how water use, like when we discussed the washing machine, can impact energy use. What about hot water heater temperatures?
Thank you for asking that, because I don't, we're trying to keep some of the tips concise. And another very good recommendation is to keep your water heater set at 120 degrees. That's what's recommended by the Department of Energy. It's helpful in that it uses less energy to maintain that constant temperature, and it's also a safety issue so that you're not accidentally scalding someone with overly hot water. Thank you for that question.
And Marissa also adds, going to Emily's point, you can also use tennis balls in place of wool dryer balls. So if you have some tennis balls lying around, that you're comfortable doing that, another solution. Okay. And we're nearing the end of our hour here, so are there any final questions from anyone? And I wanted to highlight again that if you, Carmen shared her contact information with any individual questions, and they can set up those bill consultations too to get you that personalized advice. But if you have any questions more generally about sustainability and energy at the city, or about the city's rebates, questions about the home energy squad visits, anything like that, and how to get those in St. Louis Park, definitely reach out to myself or Emily, and our contact information is in the chat as well. Great. So Carmen, Hannah, Emily, any final thoughts or tips for our attendees with?
No, I think this was really great. I hope anyone with a ceiling fan will check and make sure their ceiling fans are turned in the right direction, because I know we talked about that really briefly, but in the summer you want them running counterclockwise. And I think Carmen shared a great tip last week, which is that you can just, if you can reach up there and mark on your switch on your ceiling fan which season is for which direction. I think that's a great thing to do. We're going to be facing another heat wave over the next week or two. So just a really simple thing that can help you cut back a little bit on your air conditioning if you're planning on adjusting your thermostat.
We'd just like to thank everyone for participating and all your great questions, and we're looking forward to helping you more in the future too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone again for joining. Again, I'll send out this recording and all the resources in an email here in the next few days. And otherwise, I just want to say I hope you have a great rest of your day. So thanks again.
Thanks, Annie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.